You kind of caught me off guard here. Okay. Now, thank you, Lord. Help me. Let me pray. Very simple. It takes a lot of money to do what. Oh, yeah. Well, for example, that's really none of your business. But, hey, you listening to me? Let me give you another example. And I prayed about it, and I thought, back when, and I might add another thing, too. It's a misunderstanding. I'm talking about the Bible. God, I get excited talking about it because I love it. I had to learn this, the demons. Abraham was very, very well. I learned it from him, from the Bible.
There's a foundation in the Bible.
Wait a minute now. The blessing of Abraham. Abraham was extremely wealthy, and he had a covenant with God. I'm talking about the Bible. Oh, God, I love this. And I started out standing my grandfathers. I love the people. Those are the demons. And I understand that, and I love them with all my heart. If you go into the old covenant, and it's full of meanness, it's just full of hell on earth. He made that airplane so cheap for me, I couldn't help but buy it. I love your eyes. Face to face, personally. Just the same as Jesus is very real devil. Rulers of the darkness of this world. God bless, Father bless. But it's a biblical thing, it's a spiritual thing. It doesn't have anything to do with people. And it's full of miracles, and signs, and wonders. It's full of unseen things. Jesus, people, I love people. Dragging some woman down an aisle, it made me so mad I wanted to punch the guy out myself. We wrestle not with people. And I have a lot of natural gas.
I also have a lot of natural gas.
Have a lot of natural gas. Welcome, everybody, to another very, very special edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most from the East Coast, and now for a man who is historical, who does exist, and has actually walked on water, a man who needs no introduction. How you doing today, my one black friend?
I am well, feeling well. My surgery went well.
What was the surgery for?
I'm the bionic man. I am a cyborg.
Oh, they gave you parts?
I can actually say that. Well, they keep putting new parts in. Thankfully, they're not taking the old parts out yet. I'm not in that rough of shape. But yeah, I am full on cyborg.
Could you hang on one sec? I got a dog issue. I'll be right back. Tell the people what's going on with you.
Okay, everyone. Yeah, I had surgery on my ticker, sort of. I think it's heart surgery. They attached a new lead, gave me a new generator for my little defibrillator, which saved my life, probably, back on August 6th. If you know someone who has one of these or is getting one, we should look at this. If you know someone who has one or is getting one, I encourage that they have their doctor make sure it's set up properly so that if it needs to be used by your body, it doesn't shock you more times than you need. The shock is quite alarming, and you only need so much or so many. And on August 6th, I got 7, probably needed 1, maybe 2, or none. Not sure about the none, but 1 or 2 probably is all I needed. Anyway, my doctor's a world-class doctor. Like, literally, she is one of the leading people in her field, and she got me all set up, and I'm immensely thankful to her. Although under anesthesia, I'm not sure that's what I told her after I was coming out of the surgery. I did tell the anesthesiologist I was already tired. I hadn't slept well. I think that helps them attenuate how much of the milk of amnesia, as it is called, that they give me, because I didn't need to be all the way knocked out for this. And I was like, what? They make a small incision. One of the bandages just came off. So they make a small incision, and then they just run this wire down to my heart. They stick a new generator in there, and I am not the $6 million man, but it probably was about $35,000. So I'm the $35,000 man who needs to blow his nose. But anyway, I actually feel more energetic, so I wonder if it's turned on. Why do I say that? It has a pacemaking function, and they can turn that on and control your heart rate, which is terrifying and nice at the same time. My neighbor around the corner, he has his on all the time. It's keeping him going all the time. And a lot of people do that, but not everybody does. Mine, that's not what it's there for me, thankfully. The pacemaker that is part of, there's a pacemaker that's natural to your heart, and it's called the pacemaker. It may have some other really awesome Latin name, which I probably could do a pretty good job of pronouncing after 4 years of Latin. But anyway, yeah, and that will tell your heart what to do. And as some of you may remember, my heart is, it's got a scar on it. So that part of my heart doesn't do anything but be a seal, you know, from my heart leaking. So it doesn't beat. So we don't know how it happened. We don't know when it happened. We just know that is my situation. And regardless of how many people are praying for me, regardless, right? It has not healed. So the religious test, let's just say it's good that I have doctors.
Yeah.
It's really good. And we have modern medicine, which I take a lot of.
So, oh, go ahead. You're fine.
No, I was just going to say, during this broadcast, I'm going to have to stop, excuse myself for like 30 seconds and take more medication, but not right now. Just a little bit.
Oh, yeah, no worries. All right, so let's jump into the topic because it's a good one, especially because you're thinking about life and I don't know how many years I got left, and you know what I mean? Like all this. No,
nobody knows how many years they got left.
Nobody knows. So what I want to talk about is going home for the holidays, and I'm gonna set the stage because it's a very interesting time. So I feel like, to just speak honestly, do you ever notice how sometimes in life you realize something dawns on you, and you say to yourself, wow, I just acknowledged my own feelings for the first time, right? Like, let's say you've been dreading a job interview for some reason, right? You've been ready, it's been weeks, and then it's like 3 days ahead of time before the interview, and you go to yourself, finally you go, I'm really nervous about this job interview, right? It's like, I don't know if I want to work at this place. You know, I don't know what they're going to ask me, right? It's like you've been building it up for weeks. You've been going through the motions. You've been nervous this whole time. But for some reason, finally in this moment, you're finally able to put, you know, like a name on it for yourself and say, I'm nervous about this thing. Hang on, somebody popped in. Oh, hey, James. I'm going to let James on. What's up, James?
Hello,
man,
James
has been killing it. Welcome.
Hello.
All right, so James, I'm talking about going home for the holidays and how I'm naming this feeling for the first time. So I realized for the first time I'm having holiday dread. Like, you know how people talk about I'm supposed to go home for the holidays and I don't really want to deal with my family and all of that. And I don't know if I've never felt it before or if, you know, this is the first time I've named it, or it's because I'm out in this community now and I'm talking about these things all the time. But this is the first time in my life I was like, wait a second. I don't really want to mess with y'all this holiday. And on top of that, it's a big deal because, you know, my mother retired right before the pandemic. She lived in Ohio. She took a job in California, but she moved to New Jersey. And so she moved to New Jersey to build a, you know, family home for herself and her husband and my grandparents, her parents. So, you know, growing up, we always went to grandma's house, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, all of these things were at grandma's house. The house was filled with, 2 or 3 levels of people, every big people table, kids table, the whole 9 yards, right? Just food everywhere. But we haven't done that, right? As we went through, most families went through this. As you went through the late 90s and early 2000s, families everybody went to the 4 corners of the earth, right? And everybody started doing their own little family thing. So we really have not had this sort of, let's all get together, maybe 3 or 4 generations all under one roof and celebrate these holidays, right? So this is a big year, right? Because now it's my mom's turn to become the sort of matriarch of the family. It's my mom's turn to host all of these big holiday dinners. So I'm sure for her, this is a big year in terms of these holidays, right? Yeah. But for me, so one, you still got COVID out there. Let's put that out there. I ain't really trying to travel a lot. That's still going on. Let's not acknowledge that.
I myself, pocket locker, wear a mask when I'm on the plane.
Man, I'm wearing a mask everywhere. Man, if I gotta be indoors, I got my N95 on. But yeah, so for the first time though, I'm really like, I don't want to mess with them. And just to tie it on up for y'all, let me tell you about last Christmas. I had a little girlfriend at the time, so she came home with me, and that was really nice. My family obviously always treats my partners wonderfully, great gifts and all of that. It was a fantastic time, right? But part of it was some really serious religious stuff. My mother goes to when she was in Ohio, she went to this mega church. She probably, still does remotely. And, they have I'm talking mega church. I'm not talking about a worship band. When they do their Christmas service, I'm talking about an orchestra. Okay? Full of professional musicians. All right? I'm talking about valet parking, y'all. Actual valet parking. Okay, this is a big church. Okay, your church got a couple $1 million building. They got a couple $1 million in AV equipment. All right, so it's a serious operation. But what happened last Christmas, y'all? Same thing your pastor did last Christmas. Talk about his field trip. Oh, I went on a field trip to the shepherd's place. It's modern shepherds, y'all. Wherever you could go and people still raise sheep. I don't even think these places really exist. Somehow these pastors be finding these places. They do exist. And these pastors we should do a whole episode on pastoral field trips. I really don't like, y'all know how pastors be taking these trips just for their sermons so they can be like, oh yeah, and this Sunday we went to the factory and I saw the people working on the widgets and it reminded me of how we are all widgets for Jesus. And Jesus is molding and framing us as we go down the assembly line of faith. Amen. Hallelujah. Right? We're going to do a whole episode on pastoral field trips, these little trips they take just for their sermons. But anyway, he talks about this pastoral field trip he went on where he saw the shepherd and they were swaddling the one precious lamb and they kept it in a special little trove and they didn't let anything happen. And his whole thing, right, is so he could do a sermon about how, Jesus was, of course, the special sacrificial lamb that was righteous and pure and swaddled and all of this. And the whole thing, right, is he's doing the whole miracle birth, right? My mom's pastor said every Christmas, I'm going to tell you the greatest story ever told. And he does the whole thing. The census of Quirinius. Yeah, the census of
Trump will tell you the greatest story you've ever heard.
Exactly. But guys, they did the whole thing. The census of Quirinius. The Herod was jealous, so he slaughters all the innocents and all of this. And then I'm just sitting here like, I know all this is false. And also this is like the worst story ever told, right? Hi, I'm God. I'm all powerful. I really want to forgive people. I could just say, hey, my one black friend, I forgive you. Hey, James Apperson, I forgive you. Nope. Instead, I'm going to send my perfect righteous son who's never died to be sacrificed by some Romans on a cross. I'm just not with it. Another thing we got to add to this is
you should have made that more plainly. because I have trouble forgiving humanity, I'm gonna kill my kid.
Yeah, because I have trouble forgiving humanity, I'm gonna kill my kid. Exactly. That's the story.
How plain.
Yes, that's the story we're being asked to celebrate. Now, on top of that, we're black. And
well, James.
James is black. James count.
We black.
Yeah.
We
okay.
When I
James
play
is
James's vocal
honorary.
sample for you, you're gonna be like, oh, James black.
I'm like Steve Martin in The Jerk. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he got them pipes.
James Apperson, also
James
born
can
a
sing.
black child.
James, you know how some people can sing? My one black friend, you know people that can sing, right?
That can't or can?
They can sing.
Yeah, that's me. I'm one of those.
Well, James Apperson can sing.
Okay.
You know, it's different between yeah, exactly. The difference between he can sing and he can sing. He can sing. You understand what I'm saying? He can sing. Yeah, for real. But guys, all right, so they do the census of Quirinius, right? And then my whole life, I have been brought up on Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, the guy for the Thurgood Marshall, all of these people. This our struggle for freedom, our struggle for equity, our struggle for liberation. And then I have all these people in my family who just want to sit around and call somebody Lord and Master. And so then on top of that, when we finally get to the gift exchange portion of Christmas, what do my mom and her husband get my grandparents? A motherfucking porcelain manger set of a black porcelain manger set. So it's just a black porcelain manger set with the manger and the baby Jesus and the Virgin Mary and the
China?
Joseph, probably made in China, and all the wise
They
men.
make really good. They invented porcelain.
Yeah, and everybody's black. That's the thing. Everybody's black in this. So they love it.
Wait, the sheep, the cows.
Everybody's black. The
just...
sheep, the cow, even the manger was black. They painted the manger.
Even the manger was black.
No, just the people were black. But still, guys, so you see what we're subjected to, right? I'm not just saying like, oh, I don't want to go home and say hi to my grandmother. Right? What I'm saying is, in my house, in my family, it's everybody hold hands before every meal. Everybody sit on the couch on Christmas service, and we're gonna go through the Christmas service. Oh, let's all exchange religious gifts. Right? It is a non-stop, overbearing assault of Christianity. And then when it's over, I feel like I need another vacation and another holiday from the vacation and holiday I just had with my family. And this is the first year where I'm just really at a point where I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I've always said that there's really bad math in my family. I know what an inequality, something is greater than or less than something else. The inequality in all our families is very simple. Jesus is greater than Jason. And that is a problem because Jesus doesn't exist, but Jason does. And so I feel like if I'm going to go home, I shouldn't be subjected to prayer and have to hold hands and pray over them because these things are trauma for me. These things are traumatic for me.
Really?
They're very true. Yeah, come on, man. This is a cult. You're asking me to participate.
I have your solution. I have your solution.
Go ahead.
Just be late.
Just
show up late. What time is dinner?
Yeah,
and show up 45 minutes after it's supposed to start. You missed the prayer. You probably will arrive in time for the sweet potato with the marshmallow.
Right. Yeah.
On top of the yams.
It's not a bad idea.
You'll be in time for that, and you'll be able to still enjoy the.
Karen Bennett said that's what I do. That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. I ain't gonna lie to you.
And what was your delay, Jay? Is everything all right? I was at a Chinese restaurant. These people were very interesting. We had a lovely time talking, and then I came here.
Right.
Or, whatever the truth is, not that into it. So I showed up late to miss out on all the religious aspects and just enjoy my family.
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. It's a really interesting take because it's kind of a compromise, right? You're not missing the whole thing entirely, but you're, sort of minimizing your exposure to these things that are they're just difficult for me to sit through. They're very difficult to sit through.
Yeah, show up late.
Yeah.
That's it.
James, what do you think about all this?
I mean, all of it's quite understandable. I like the idea of showing up late. It makes sense. but I don't know your family. Like, I don't know what kind of conversation you can afford to have with them.
Sure.
Like,
but just what are your thoughts on all this in general? Yeah, going home for the holidays. We know a lot of atheists in this situation.
In my idealistic, which also is unrealistic, liberal fantasy mind, right? The birthplace of Star Trek universe and all that other stuff, that kind of idea. I picture this situation where you can just send some emails to your family and say, let them know that, if we could just not do the whole Jesus thing this year and, just be respectful of two people that are in a different place in their journey, that would be really great. Maybe I could just show up a little bit late and, once I'm there, just please don't hit me up with that stuff. I'm just not feeling it. But I would love to have them say, wow, you're right. That's not fair. We need to be more and more inclusive and not like barrage you with all this religious stuff that we believe in and you don't. We're going to be respectful of that. So, but that's probably not what would happen, right? They'd probably take offense or.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think these are all really good approaches. So, I was going to have a conversation. I do think there's a chance my family will be understanding. It's really all about my mom. If my mom says, you know what, son, that's actually really reasonable. Like you said, we should be a little bit more inclusive. Maybe we should think about this. If she says to my grandparents, look, we're not going to pair over the table. We're not going to, we're going to make sure the house is decorated inclusively, right? Because it's the same thing my mom did for my girlfriend, right? My girlfriend came, my mom makes sure there are no pictures of any of my ex-girlfriends in the house, right? She makes sure we don't have, so it's the same type of consideration, right? It's the same type of consideration. I don't want to see, if you got religious imagery in your bedroom, fine, but I shouldn't have to see it, right? Because again, my thing is if y'all get to talk about it, I should get to talk about it.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. It's dangerous though, but it's fair but dangerous.
We grown. If you don't want everybody in the room to talk about something, don't bring it up. We got to stop treating these people like children. Go ahead, my black friend.
Okay, 0125 AR has joined us. I want to read a couple of his comments and comment on one of them. So I guess comment on two. Jesus, he writes, is better than Jason. It's like no one is better than someone. So the Bible says that God is no respecter of persons. That means that a person with high status should not be respected more than the poorest, lowliest leper. You don't esteem that person more. And yet Jesus gets a birthday party thrown all over the world. I mean, should we go that far? I don't think Jehovah's Witnesses do. I know they don't celebrate birthdays.
It's true. And I also feel like this is part of the whole Christian mentality because I do feel like they think they're better than us. I mean, it's an essential.
I don't know that's I think that's less common than you realize.
You think so?
I think so, because I think there's a lot of Christians who say I'm a filthy sinner and a lot of hypocrites that know, like, look, I don't really know shit. I don't really know crap about my religion. I just, again, I say it like every other week. I just got the jersey that says I'm a Christian. Maybe that should be a product on my store or my Christian. Yeah. Christian, it says Christian on the back. 01. No, 02, because God is first. Christian. Yeah. So I'm doing it, man. I'm doing it. I gotta do that. So when you think about that, and there's a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of them have questions you can't answer. I mean, you have questions they can't really answer because they don't have a good understanding.
Right.
You can have the upper hand if you want it, but is that really the best thing? Because maybe it isn't. Maybe the best thing is to get that person. Sort of what I do is I try to straighten people out rather than rip their faith right out of their body. Like, no, let me just straighten you out. It's not as solid an idea as you think. Right. It's not as there was somebody put something about God's plan on Facebook, and I had to say, like, they had all these peaks and valleys and pitfalls, like God's plan, and above it was man's plan. And I wrote, like, simply, my plan would involve less suffering and take less time.
Hang on, guys, you should be watching on Hot Program. But yeah, some people are watching on Pocket Locker 86, and then some people are also watching on my One Black Friends channel. But yeah, ideally you'd be watching on Hot Program. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and that's fine by me, of course. But yeah, my path wouldn't involve killing people.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who would read that, and it's going to register with them, oh yeah. Is God's path really better, or you were just taught to think that God's judgment is better than everybody else's? Well, the simplest of reviews of God's choices in the Bible would show you God's not much of a planner, nor is God much of a thinker.
Right.
Not winning the I gotta see the clip, like Harold Camping. God is not a genius. He's not a genius. Just isn't.
Yeah.
So, secondly, 0125AR asks, can you afford to be late for Jesus? Now, if my aunt were here, she'd tell you, now there's a whole sermon. And leading off with the parable of the 10 virgins who don't have enough oil for their lamps, and they try to borrow it from other people. So they're not going to be invited in. To the wedding. So I would say, in terms of reality, sure, you can be late. Just understand you're going to have to microwave your turkey, and I'm assuming your family has a very delicious ham prepared as well, which you're not supposed to eat according to the 600. We were supposed to do 613 commandments today.
Oh, I knew. I was trying to. I said I knew we had an episode, and I just couldn't think of what it was. I kept forgetting. All right, but go ahead.
Thou shalt not forget.
Thou shalt not forget. Yeah, Jesus could have thrown in number 11.
Okay, I actually have booked another contract for the remainder of the year. So I'll be traveling out of state again, and I'll make sure that I don't travel on Sunday, so I don't have to miss a show.
Oh, we appreciate that.
Yeah,
and congratulations. Good. I hope you're excited about it.
And I turned down way more exciting stuff for this.
Oh, you're not excited about this one?
No, I am excited. I had lots of opportunities, and almost all of them. There was one that didn't pay better than this one. The rest did. The rest would have taken me to places like there was a project in Hawaii.
Damn.
There was a project going to South Africa, and I've wanted to see Africa for a very long time. Granted, I'm sure I'd see South Africa, and I would only have like 2 free days to go see anything else. So it's kind of not really getting the experience. But anyway, I could have touched base in Africa, and I'd have gone. I wouldn't know crap about Africa. I just will have gone. But let's do the commandments next week.
All right, we'll do the
even the week after, I think I'm leaving on the 7th. So we can next week we can do.
All right. Yeah, we got to start. It's probably gonna take a couple episodes to get through all of them.
It will have to be a series. Graham Pong says, "Why worry about being late for Jesus? Jesus is wrong." I apologize for laughing reading your comment. This is very poignant what you say. Jesus is running late as well, since we'll never know the day or the hour when he knows when he shows up for his party. LOL. Well said. Not by me. By you.
Cameron, the commandments are the Israelite commandments.
Cameron, we want to do all 613.
Oh my goodness.
613.
They're probably the worst.
And it's the 0th commandment, like the 0th law. The 0th commandment, do as God says, not as God does. Why is okay, so Graham Pong, I'm giving you a responsibility. When we do those episodes, you need to bring this back up.
Yeah, I mean, in every single way.
I do wonder if this isn't one of them. I mean, it's a fascinating point. I respect this hugely because the Bible says thou shalt not steal. but we see God stealing people's land. Thou shalt not murder, or thou shalt not kill. We see God kill literally almost everyone.
Everybody.
So I wonder, is it God has done so much awful crap that you need hundreds of commandments to cover it all? Like,
we joked about this on James's show that God was the objective basis for morality because he was the floor. He was the worst. He was the worst conceivable being. He's not the ceiling. He's the floor. Is how he's the objective basis. Yeah.
I don't want to spend all day ripping on Trump. It's just a lot of things that I see people post. This is more about the people that post things about him. There'll be people who say, "Well, Trump is."
Sorry, I fucked that up. I meant to say he's the floor, not the ceiling. I just realized that. But go ahead. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
There are people who will say Biden is bad for this reason, yada yada yada. Trump is great for this reason, blah, 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 blah. And I'll say for everything you say that Biden is bad for, Trump has done the same thing or worse. There was one about draft dodging. Biden dodged the draft 5 times. And I wrote back to the guy. I'm like, here's a story from Business Insider where Trump did the same thing. Trump did it 5 times. And also, the guy kind of had to humble out a little bit.
Let me be honest about a couple things. Number one, I'm not a Joe Biden fan at all. But it's no comparing him and Trump. When I say I'm not a Joe Biden fan, it's because I'm comparing him to Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Cory Booker.
As do I.
In the squad. And then the squad. And I'm like, all right, I'm not a Joe Biden fan. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But comparing him to Trump, we're talking about a perfectly normal politician versus somebody who's actually evil. Like we can't equivocate on these things, right? Let's say another thing about draft dodging. Everybody would be draft dodging. My whole life coming up as a kid, I ain't even gonna lie to y'all, I feared that they would bring back the draft.
Really?
And I always strategized about how I'd get the hell out of it. Always. Die for this country? Are y'all insane?
And now a man who would die for his country, but it would have to be a T-shirt. A man who needs no introduction, Jay Bundy.
Yeah, are you serious? Right? Die for this country. Again, I was the only black kid in an all-white school. You know what kind of I was dealing with every day? Jay Bundy was never going to be a good soldier. My mother asked me one time about joining the military. I literally laughed in her face. It's the only time I've laughed in my mother's face. Only time. Yeah, seriously. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. But yeah, it's so I think a lot of people would be draft dodgers. I just don't think a lot of people talk the talk, but who wants to really go to war over that flag? Nah, not me. I'm out. I'm going to Canada somewhere. That's why I was trying to figure out which country do I have to go to that won't send me back.
British Columbia is beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, British Columbia is astonishingly beautiful. If you end up in Canada, they might look for you in British Columbia now, so don't go there, and don't go to Quebec either. Although the people are lovely, pick a different province. You can hang out with. I don't want to say anyway. But yeah, Canada's spectacular. I have an issue with war because war is often down to 2 rooms full of people that don't want to agree. Because one doesn't want to be oppressed by the other, and the other's like, yeah, but we're so powerful. What can you do? And so we see what's happening between Russia and Ukraine.
Right.
It's Putin's vision. It's Putin's dream. And hundreds of thousands of people will die behind Putin's dream. And it looks like Putin may not even live to see it come true. The guy's probably got the best doctors in the world, some of them, helping him, come back from being very sick with cancer. And yet, is it going to be fulfilling at all, like in an enduring way, if he succeeds and Russia defeats Ukraine and they annex Ukraine? Is it going to be fulfilling at all? No. Is it going to ever be worth it? No. So with the end of his life, Putin should have done something beautiful.
Right.
Beautiful to people and not harmful. Mm-hmm. And he may not have had the vision to do that, but he did have the power to do that. Well, if you have the power and not the vision, start asking around and get the vision.
Well,
what can we do to make the world a better place?
this is sort of exactly what got me on the topic. Was the holiday should be a restful, peaceful, do something beautiful for and with family time. Yeah. And I started to realize it wasn't that for me. And it wasn't that, and it's not that for so many people. And, you know, we've had a lot of growth in this community. We've been, you know, we built the virtual compound. We've been hanging out a lot. And I remember past holidays where, because the only holiday I kind of would go for was Christmas. I would go spend with my mom and her husband for like Christmas or, you know, New Year's sometimes. But like that's it. But I remember like the times where I've stayed home and made myself Thanksgiving dinner or made myself Easter dinner, and you know, what I'll do is I'll make myself something special. I'll take, you know, 2 or 3 of my specialties and make sure I get them all in there or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's a really great time. And I started to feel like I think I would have more fun if I just hosted a big virtual family dinner and just had, you know, everybody that's, you know, stuck at home alone like me, or, you know, is going late to family or done with family, and just yeah, like let's just do our own. Everybody cook. If you go with your family or whatever, and you want to just chill afterwards or beforehand, go ahead. That's fine. But if you're like me and you decide to stay home, hey, let's everybody make something special, share what you're making. Let's all get together, like big, you know, and just sit down and eat together and chill. And I started to really, and so that's what made it even more pressing, because I was like, I'd actually kind of starting to feel like I'd rather do us for the holidays and not even be bothered. So,
but why don't you, if I may riff on that idea, because that's something that could be quite expansive. Have the International Atheist Family Holiday Family Dinner. Have it, and have people do it where they're live streaming or tuning in from their family home's celebration, and let other people know, well, look, you know, there are people who are going to be alone this Christmas, and maybe it would be fun if I did this, if I was doing what you described, and I was having family dinner here at my house, or went to somebody else's, and I set up my computer in another room, and I got my plate of food there.
Oh, he froze on us. Uh-oh. James, I'm sure he'll just reset.
Oh, my stream.
Oh, wait, he's back. He's back.
Okay. Without even a religious connotation, say hello. Well, I guess saying Merry Christmas is a religious connotation, but without the endless message, right? Without the preaching, just simply trying to connect with people and saying hello out there. You know, thanks for joining my nephew on his stream. I think this is a pretty fun idea, and maybe we should do it too. I don't know if you still see me. It looks like
yeah. You're good. Okay. You're good. No, you're.
So, Friendsgiving, Atheistmas, I think they're trying to say Atheistmas.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I mean, those are Atheistmas is a good name. You know, 0125AR coming with the ideas.
Yeah, these are great ideas. Do a Festivus for the rest of us. That's kind of like and maybe you guys know I stream like around the clock, so it kind of could be the type of thing where I have a time set up for it to be the actual dinner time, and then people can just check in throughout the day, because people are in different parts of the world, different time zones. I'm sure everybody's not going to be eating at the same time, but just check in, and if your family wants to check in with you, that's cool. If not, maybe that gives people a break from family, right? Maybe people do go home and they feel like they've got to be with their families all day, but then they can come check in the stream for an hour or so, and that'll give them a little bit of a timeout, maybe from friends and family. That could be cool. This could be great.
And think of the opportunity to learn how, like, okay, what are they? I keep saying Holland. What do they do in Holland? What do they do in Finland? What do they do in
sharing
China?
Our customs.
You know, that sort of thing. Like, how is that day special there? Again, you're stripping away a lot of the religious message, because we get it if they go to church. You know, a lot of people don't even go to church on Christmas Day. But I think you open yourself up to people not feeling so isolated, because think of it, this is the biggest, probably the most widely celebrated holiday in human history in the world. And there's some people who feel ostracized, and a lot of people feeling like you do. I have to now go put myself in an environment that I consider an oppressive one. How do I manage to enjoy myself other than be late? they're
Yeah,
gonna
seriously,
struggle.
that's what I was thinking.
And
It's a
maybe they
struggle.
won't have to.
Yeah, that'd be
Maybe
great.
they
That'd be
won't
great.
have
Yeah, it's a real issue, and I just thought
So
definitely
you
worth
and
talking
James
about. I'm so
coordinate
glad we
that.
did this.
You and James coordinate that. I don't have time.
Happy 420 to those of you out there that celebrate. But yeah, I think we'll coordinate it and figure it out, and I hope people join us. So let's talk about a couple other strategies that I think are interesting here. So two that come immediately to mind. So one of mine was you may consider visiting another time. In either case. So what I mean by that is you may decide I'm not going to go because I don't want to deal with all of that, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to go visit my family in the middle of January or early February. The reason being you're saying I'm going to let them have their holidays. Right? I don't. It's just an idea, right? It's just a way of saying I'm going to let them have their holidays. Strategies, different. It's options, different strokes for different folks. It's just different ways to go about it. So you could say I'm going to let them have their holidays, right? That way they can go and they can be religious. They can go to church. They can pray over the table. They could speak in tongues over dessert if they want, right? And then you don't feel like you have to be there. And then you say to them, but I'm going to come. And then I think what you might feel, and this is what I was thinking with my family. This is going to be kind of one of my things that I've seen other people in the family do. Then you feel like your visit is about your visit, right? Then the special thing going on in the middle of February isn't, let's all get together and celebrate. It's, hey, Jason's coming home, right? Let's all get together and celebrate. Or here's another visit later. If you really feel like you need to have some conversations with your family about the religion thing, you could suck it up for the holidays and then come back another time for a visit and have those conversations if that's possible for you. So it's just different ways I thought people might approach it, right? They're all valid.
To go with what you just said, we should do an episode that talks about comebacks for the arguments that you may hear at Christmas time. Number one being, I know it's a holiday, but I really came to just enjoy my family. I didn't come to have these arguments and discussions. And I think that's a very respectful way to say, I don't want to hear any of this. It's a myth. You don't have to take the wind out of their sails, and they don't get the chance to take the wind out of yours. It's not about them. You make it more about the whole family enjoying each other. One issue I have based on my life experience, and especially this year, look, I almost died on August 6th. And one of my mentors who kept saying to me when I would call him and talk to him, come see me before I die, died. So if you wait, there may be people you'd love to see that won't be there. And it could be worse. You won't be. Right. So I'm gonna disagree with you about waiting until another time to go visit. If you can afford to go visit a second time, do it. If you could afford it mentally and financially,
right.
Do it. But I would say, just because you might feel to some degree your feelings are going to be hurt by religious fervor, I don't think that's a reason to skip it.
Sure.
The ultimate solution may be late and miss that spiritual component that's there, right. But show up for enjoying your family, enjoying the food, and and even the gift giving. There's probably going to be a prayer said, and the greatest gift was Christ dying for our sins. Okay, well, I just told you that's coming, so it will have zero impact on you, or a near zero impact on you when you hear it again.
Right.
Because you could read it and it's like, yeah, that's stupid.
Right. Yeah, no, that's one approach. I mean, and so here was my thinking about that, and I definitely appreciate that perspective. I just wanted to talk about it because I feel like so many times in adulting, quite frankly, like that's the solution. Like the solution is to just eat crow and deal with the thing. Like I dealt with a thing at my job recently where somebody essentially threatened to fire me, right? And it was this person who I've never met. And I didn't even like know this person, but apparently they like work. They're like a co-PI on the project that trains me with like my program director, and essentially they were frustrated that I hadn't responded to like sort of the program's typical. We pair you with a teaching mentor from a community college, and you go co-teach a class at a community college. And I'm sitting there like, well, duh, that's because I'm teaching with Rob Pennock at Michigan State, and I'm doing all this grand stuff, and I designed my course. In other words, I'm doing 5-10 times, literally. Like last year, I was required to teach 3 hours in a class. I taught 30. Right? So, because it's my own class, right? That I'm so I was, I'm teaching a class. So what it is me and this person just don't know each other. And I was very upset about this. You don't talk to me this way. This isn't how you recruit people. Just because someone's a leader over me in a position of authority over me doesn't mean they're a leader or that they're a good leader, right? But
they should know. They should know what you're up to. They should know how much effort you put in when you weren't required to. If they truly are a leader, when you're a leader, you're aware of the people you lead and what they do.
Yeah. So... But at the end of the day, it just is one of them situations where it's a power thing and shit rolls downhill, and you just have to sort of, oh, I'm so sorry about this miscommunication, and I'll be happy to do anything you need me to do, and it felt awful, right? Because it felt like I'm validating this person doing this when, me and my advisors that I could speak to closely, I let know this is totally unacceptable. And I literally hoped that I reached a point in life where no one would ever make me feel that way again. And I've been made to feel small and insignificant and dismissible with the stroke of a pen my entire life. And to be working this hard, trying to take over the world and literally change the game, and then be told, like, you didn't do this thing that I got no interest in doing because, again, it's just not, I shouldn't even be doing it, right? And then once I told them what I was doing, again, what was it? Oh, well, it's no big deal. Oh, we'll talk. In other words, they buttoned up. Oh, yeah, it's fine, Mr. Bunny. Oh, we'll talk about it for next year, right? In other words, they just came at me hard for no reason. But
it looks like they admitted they were wrong, though.
Yeah, but my point is, right, the right thing for me to do, y'all, was to just grin and bear it. Right, and I gotta have a meeting with this person coming up, and the right thing to do is gonna be real friendly and smart. Because again, I gotta get this person on my team now. This whole thing's become an issue. Now we're set up a meeting. We're all gonna sit down and talk. It's not the right move for me to go at this person's throat. The right move is to be like, I'm so happy we finally got to meet. I've been really looking forward to this. I'm so happy to talk to you about all my great research and how it's going to be the best thing in the history of the University of Minnesota. Go Gophers, right? And because that's the thing, right? Like, that's the right thing to do. It's the professional thing to do. Like my dad said, it's how you play the game, right? You got to make sure these people don't get you sidetracked and distracted from what you're trying to do, right? We had similar conversations going into the Kent Hovind debate, right? Jay, I'm going to ask you to be willing to be potentially very uncomfortable. That way, we could actually get something productive out of this rather than just being another Kent Hovind shit show, And so I kind of got that about this. That a lot of the conversation with our community needs to be, hey guys, we got to do what's right by family sometimes, And sometimes them holidays, that's that one time a year. We just got to go on home, hug and kiss grandma,
While she's still here?
While she's still here, eat some cranberry sauce and keep it moving, right? But I also wanted to acknowledge we're here to support our community, not their families. We're here to help each other, be free and have peace and be settled. And so I wanted to at least create the space for our community to say, you don't have to. And I think even...
You don't. That's true.
And I think even for a lot of us, I may go. And I may feel better going because it was the first year I was able to vocalize that I really didn't want to. I was able to vocalize, I'm frustrated with this, that, and the other. Maybe we do have some conversations about, hey, could y'all consider this a little bit coming in? I'm not trying to make anybody upset, but I'm also trying to just be able to enjoy y'all without being distracted by something that gets me emotional, right? We put it like that, right? Hey, I'm just trying to chill with y'all, and I really don't want to be having a psychiatric episode in the middle of a holiday. So if y'all can make, you know what I'm saying? Because I think it would be kind of a meet in the middle, right? I don't think my family's not jerks, y'all. My family's great people. They're not going to not try to accommodate it. Probably are going to try to accommodate me, right? Mm-hmm. And so that could be it. Man, we had fun, y'all. I really enjoyed it. Y'all know I'm catching up with OG Roddy. Y'all know part of the reason I want to go. I got to see my dad. I got to catch up with OG Roddy. So, I'm going to go see my cousin. If this happens, yeah, I might not even go because of COVID, right? But let's just say I do go, right? But it would just be I decided to go, and being able to work through everything made it okay, right? So yeah, I just wanted to put it out there because it was definitely something I was thinking about. And I've realized that there does come a time in life where you have to have your personal life. And I personally get frustrated because I feel like I'm always swallowing my pride, biting my tongue, grinning and bearing it, rather than creating a space for me to really, do what I feel like I might have to do to be happy.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, James?
I think that based on what I'm hearing, that you should talk to your mom and have a heart-to-heart about how it's counterintuitive to your mental health to have to be overexposed to religious stuff, but you also don't want to take away from what they want to do for their holidays, and get her involved in the decision-making process to figure out a way where everybody can have what they want, where they get to be as all about the Jesus as they want to be, but without infringing upon you. And if what you guys decide is maybe you need to show up late or
right.
something, like, I don't know, like I think it sounds like it wouldn't hurt to get her involved in the discussion with
yeah, I think that's definitely the case. There's another aspect of this that ties into things that have been going on in the community lately. The situation with Rebecca comes to mind. My mom, I don't know if you know this, but Rebecca, Bread of Life, you know who? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. This is weighing on my mind.
Yes.
My marketing degree is kicking in. Graham Pong, once again, thank you. I want to modify what you suggested. I think it should be Atheistmas. Let's throw a T in there. Atheistmas. Pocket Locker. I think I need to get involved.
Atheistmas.
I think I need to get involved.
And pushing Atheistmas. Okay.
Merry Atheistmas.
Merry Atheistmas.
I think
Let's do it.
We start letting people know this is going to be a thing. We do it now.
Okay. If you're involved, people are going to actually show up. So that's
I'll be
good.
out of the country on that day, and I'll be at a place where the internet is suspect.
Dial up.
And I'll be with my fiance's family, but not the whole day. So and I'll be on East Coast time. So I think I'll talk to her to say, and she's so supportive. I'll talk to her and say, hey, I want to break away and we can just make it an hour, or I can be there an hour, maybe two. And I think we ought to make it a thing. I think we ought to start now.
Okay.
And get other atheist channels involved. And this can be the hub. Because we can have other YouTubers in the atheist community host their own. But use, like, this is on my channel. Have them call in, like James Apperson is doing.
Yeah, and then connect in
and talk
channels.
A little bit.
And
just say hello. And then they can go back, exit our stream and go back to theirs. That sort of thing. But give them an opportunity to sort of, so we can know their voice. Same thing true for Pine Creek. Pine Creek's wife is Christian. So, I would imagine in that household, they honor that about her.
Sure.
I'm sure it's something she's still quite excited about. They're with their family. I think his son and daughter, I can't swear to it, I think they might also be both non-believers. So she's outnumbered 3-1, but I really hope they have a wonderful time in that household. But they seem to enjoy each other, so they probably do, right? And it's more about being together than it is about Christmas.
Absolutely.
If that sentiment could be echoed, and there are going to be a lot of people who don't have someone around. So I think Atheistmas is a way for, I'd say, we can strengthen the community without taking away from anything. Now, there will be those people who are saying, like, oh, you're persecuting Christians. That's not the point of it. Nobody's persecuting you.
Right.
We just don't believe. And we're just like the idea of Christmas itself is derived from other holiday celebrations.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. We're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we're still saying it is about togetherness. It is about supporting each other, and enjoying each other. We just don't have the religious aspect to it, and we're not taking it away from someone else.
Right.
If that was the idea, then these people may have a point. Well, you guys are, you're telling people not to worship Jesus. We're not saying that. We just don't.
Yes.
You can worship Jesus or whoever you want to. That's on you. And really, if you're going to worship Jesus, read the whole book first.
Yes.
Because there's some good stuff in there.
And
it's sort of intertwined with some really awful ideas, but there's some good ideas in there.
Okay, but we're getting at a couple things here that I think are super important. Wow. Number one, this idea that you should read the whole book. I mean, they don't, right? That's kind of scary to me, to center that much of your identity in life around something and be so clueless as to, what the story actually is.
Yeah, to worship a book you've never read. It's pretty scary.
And then the idea of deriving it from them and still making it about coming together and all of that. I really like this. So one of the things that I thought about getting ready for this was, so lately, I don't know if you know this, but my friend, but Rebecca, Bread of Life, is, I guess, considering at least not creating content on her channel anymore, or changing the type of content she makes. Some people in our community are convinced or think that interactions with our community is a big part of that. Because she said things like she doesn't feel like her stuff's getting through to people. She's having a lot of interactions with, her channel's mostly become a lot of atheists, and then she's not getting anywhere with those atheists. She's always getting pushback from them and stuff. And so, feels like she's talking about us, right, James?
Yeah.
So she feels a bit like the punching bag. Is that fair to say?
I think that's kind of what I'm getting.
She feels ineffective. Like, what is she doing here if she's not going to be able to win anybody over to Jesus? Why is she here?
I think I need to talk to her. I think I need to give her some scriptures to strengthen her faith and uplift her. Well, look, I'm very fond of this podcast. What we do, reaching out to people. Our audience isn't. We don't have 50,000 people. We don't have 150,000 people. We don't have 10 million people listening to what we're saying. Right. But for the ones that we are reaching, we can share, life's meaning with them and they with us. We're open to hearing them out. And maybe what Rebecca doesn't realize is somewhere in her audience, there's someone who never comments. There's someone who's kind of shy and maybe off to the side, and what she does is very meaningful to them. And though she may be communicating with people like us who are calling in and that sort of thing, she's more communicating to that person who's too shy to do so, or maybe they don't, like Moses, maybe they don't express themselves well, and they have no errand. So I would only encourage her to keep at it. Sure, if you need to make some changes to if she needs to make changes to what she does, by all means, do that. But I would never, I can't imagine that she should stop. I don't think that's
I mean,
What she should do.
we think she's a lot. I think you probably, James. What do you think? I think he's still on the. I think he's still casual Rebecca. We think Rebecca's pretty toxic, quite frankly, right? Like she's.
You do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I wasn't sure at first. I flip-flopped about it for a while, but after I got to chapter 3, by the time I got to chapter 3 of her book, and then she commented after the reading, then I pieced it all together, and I realized, yeah, she's toxic.
And so, yeah, and she says there's a lot of aggression, a lot of really vitriolic things. She's someone who, that's her thing. So, all the apologists are going to apologize. They've all got their way about them. My one black friend, oh, you're good. Yeah, appreciate you. And so her thing is, you can mute your mic and, I can mute it and turn off your camera and then you're good. Yep. That's just kind of her tactic, right? Is to be the nice one, the one that everybody really likes, and that way I think she's more difficult to critique, and most of our community is probably fairly familiar with this. My thing is not really so much to talk about her as to say that I think part of what we see with her is the difference that pushback can make, especially pushback from reasonable people who were firm in their pushback, right? And somebody recently I was listening to, I'm not sure, it was one of those big think videos, but it was basically saying, it was the one about, I think, will America's anti-science, be the end of its reign or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right. And part of what they were saying is that people will not stop being this way. They will not stop being anti-truth and believe what you want and make up your own facts until there are consequences. And they specifically said this in the context of talking about like vaccine and things like that, where eventually the chickens come home to roost, right? Like eventually the rubber meets the road. Eventually you get down to nut cutting time. There are consequences. Same thing with climate change, right? And the sad part about human nature is we normally don't change until those consequences force us to. In other words, they become too severe to continue. And how does this all tie back together? Well, I think the holidays might be a critical part of that if some of our family members are ever going to grow. I am convinced that for a lot of us, are ever going to grow. My one black friend's back. I'm gonna wait till he gets his headphones on. I think he does. All right. So, I think that for a lot of us, what I've become convinced of is that people do really change their mind, but a lot of it has to do with, number one, there being some sort of consequence for them not changing their mind. And number two, it tends to happen when someone they really respect, trust, love, and therefore has great influence on them, really kicks the actual factuals to them. And so I have come to sort of the unfortunate suspicion that we are a lot of our family and friends' best hope at a religion. I think the people, I know a lot of people say that, you're not the right person because you're too close to them and it's better for them to have their own journey or somebody else in their life. Well, come on now. These people grown, y'all. And by grown, I mean they 30 plus, 40 plus, 60 plus. When is this going to happen? They've been rocking on the earth for half a century, y'all. And nobody's had that influence on them. I'm being honest. My scientific prediction is the probability of somebody else being the person in that person's life is next to zero. Who? They clearly ain't got no coworkers that's doing it. Clearly ain't gonna be somebody from their church. So you have to ask yourself, who is this mystery like, we're almost, as atheists, praying. We're like, dear Lord Jesus, I know there's no real critical atheist in my grandparents' life, but if you could just please send somebody, because I know I'm too close to them to be the person. So right? I'm literally praying for a miracle.
Yeah, my fiance, she says a lot of. I'm looking forward to her writing a book one day. She says a lot of really insightful things. One of the most insightful things she has said is, "No one has faith all the time."
Wow.
I think maybe the conversation starter, Pocket Locker, is asking, what are some things that have made you doubt your faith? Now, imagine this being a conversation, believer to atheist. You've checked out entirely. By the way, this is an ice pack, in case anyone's curious.
Yeah, you feeling okay?
I don't have my preemie. Yeah, this is just for the swelling.
I got you.
It's just for the swelling. So imagine that you're having a conversation with someone. They're having a conversation with someone who doesn't believe. We're more likely to connect with that person in their doubt than we are in their assurity. Why? Because we actually looked at it, right? Many of us, not every atheist has read the Bible or whatever religion you got, has gone through the holy books, right? We've actually performed an investigation, some of us. So when we're listening to the doubts, you don't have to discuss that with them really, or try to bring them into atheism. I think it's powerful just to listen, because now they know they are telling those doubts to someone who is completely safe to say these things to, and not be looked down upon or ostracized as a result. And they don't have to listen to a speech from you about why they should hold on to their faith, even though I just did that for Rebecca.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
But the average conversation, I think, will exclude, that sort of thing. Because we do have to realize that those of faith and we atheists have some different approaches to dealing with pain and suffering, dealing with loss. And often religious people will come at us with a scripture. When you ask that question, what are some things that cause you to doubt? There's no pressure there for that person to sort of puff themselves up to be the perfect example of a follower of Jesus or whoever. There's no responsibility for them to do that to you. They may feel that based on their faith experience that they should, but they can circle back and tell you why they stuck with it. But the doubt, we see this with Pine Creek, right? We see this with Aaron Ra and other atheists who will ask that difficult question, and then they'll ask questions. They'll make it Socratic.
Right.
The answer becomes the next question, which isn't a bad idea.
Right.
If it's a call-in show, if it's dinner, might not be the best idea.
Yeah. No, it's really. So we often say this thing. You see the atheist in front of you, but you don't see the Christian it took to get here, and that's like that. Sort of related to that. And that's how I relate when I'm in church with my church friends. It's just I see myself as just simply a Christian who doubts. Sort of chronically, I guess you could say. But, it's genuine, so that when they say to me, oh, I moved here because Austin, our pastor name is Austin. Austin came and, when I was a student in Florida, and I heard the vision, and I believe God was calling me to East Lansing to be here. And so it was just a total God thing. And I'm just in there, yeah, I totally get that, right? Because I've done a lot of things in my life that were just total God things. So I do know exactly what they mean. I just doubt now that it was actually a God thing. And so when I have conversations with them, it's sort of like, that's how I present it. I almost present it as my sin struggle. You struggle, some of them struggle with masturbation. I don't. You know, I don't have a problem with that particular thing.
I've gotten quite good at it.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them, you know, they struggle with, you know, drinking or partying, whatever it is. And I just go, yeah, I'm a doubter. You know, I just doubt the claims of the faith, you know? And then, and most of them are right there. They're like, yeah. You know, because I think for a lot of them, that's the ultimate thing. Like if you read about Mother Teresa, that was like the big boom about Mother Teresa after she died, right? Was that everybody came to realize that she doubted, actually. She had these doubts and she journaled about them, and she really, really did seriously struggle with doubt. And so it is something that's, I always try to tell our community, like the fact that you used to be a believer is your superpower. And that's why, because they do recognize the power of doubt as an essential struggle to the faith. And you're right, there's no pressure or shame necessarily associated in the interpersonal conversation between two people to acknowledge that they have doubt. Now, you're right. The religion is telling you should blessed assurance, you know, but we all know that doubt is part of the actual journey. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've known religious people that claim to have no doubts, but I knew that they were just fronting. I knew that was just a thing that's just virtue signaling for the community. Because if that's true, if it's true they never have any doubts, then that means it's just a woefully mentally lazy and dishonest person. Because doubt is a healthy mechanism. It manifests from a healthy mind in order to keep us in check. It's constantly reevaluating our paradigm. So, you know, that's why nothing's 100% certainty in my worldview. Nothing. It's all 99.9 is as high as it gets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what intelligent and honest people do.
I had a conversation with the when I was being discharged from the hospital. They sent I guess I shouldn't say they sent. I think the chaplain was making his rounds, and he happened to come to my room.
The chaplain. Okay.
This is awesome. And so we have to check with his administrators to see if he can join us on Hot Program. And we can talk with him about pretty much anything under the sun.
Sure. Yeah.
I think a good thing would be grief. How do we deal with people of faith when they're grieving?
Yes, and then you also said the sort of delaying medical care. I'm sure he sees a lot of that too.
Yeah, and that sort of thing. Because him functioning a lot of the time in a hospital, you know, under his advisory role or pastoral role, I think he sees.
She's the end a lot.
I'm going to use my own words, and I'm not trying to offend him. He's going to see the real miracle workers.
Yeah.
All day long. He sees the real miracles when he's there.
That's right.
All day long.
That's right.
This dude effing lived.
We replaced this dude's heart today.
Yeah. They brought this lady back from the dead.
Right.
Or they had to literally kill someone, do the surgery, and have the machines do everything for them, and then bring them back to life. They can do that now, depending on what's going on with you.
Right.
And that's how far technology has come. Maybe we could ask him about that too, but he's a witness to that sort of thing occurring.
Absolutely.
But he said something that really impacted me, and I hope I'm not misquoting him. But he said, look, religion isn't an intellectual pursuit.
Right.
Well said. If you're into dropping your microphone,
right,
that guy should do it. It's not. And I think that's a key thing for us to remember. It isn't. And for those people who say, oh, I don't have any doubts, I would say, how are you going about believing? Are you truly someone who the Bible talks about knowing in several places about knowing what the Word of God actually says. I'm not beating up on Christians. It's the book I know. I've studied other religions. Christianity has the Bible, and that's the book I know. But it constantly refers to having an understanding of it. We live in a time, unlike the time when it was written, where literacy is extremely common. Most people you will ever meet in your life, regardless of which country you visit, will be able to read and write. Now, if you go visit the Yanomamo Indians, I don't know if they're so hot on our system of reading and writing. I don't know if they have one of their own, or are they strictly an oral society, or you go talk to the Bantu peoples out there, in Africa, in the wilderness. I don't know what their deal is when it comes to that, how their stories are handed down. But when you talk to like your average person in the United States or Spain or Portugal or Brazil or wherever, Mexico, when you talk to those people, most of them can read.
Absolutely.
Most of them can read. And yet, if there is no investigation into the Bible, I get why you don't have doubts. To some degree, you also don't have the news, I would assume. Like you're tuning this out.
Right.
You're tuning the world around you out. You ought to see injustice left and right, and it should not make sense to you. And in my perspective, someone believing that, well, it's just God's plan, that is, why do you not question that? Again, the suffering, unnecessary suffering. Our neighbor's cat, we were outside talking, I was visiting with them, and their cat goes into another neighbor's yard, comes back with a baby squirrel. You cannot convince me that this cat knew how we all would feel about it just showing up to us with a baby squirrel. What happened is the family gives the cat food. Well, the cat goes out hunting, and it brings what? It brings back food to the family. Hey, y'all, we can eat this.
Right.
Well, now you have two small children that are like, what the heck is that? And the mom and dad going, oh my gosh, how are we going to deal with this? And me standing there like, that's just nature.
Right.
The cat is providing for the family that provides for the cat. It's doing its contribution, right?
Right.
But what about the mother squirrel? You can't tell me they don't think. You can't tell me that they don't have an opinion about the matter. Is she not going to be worried about it?
Right.
If she had 9 babies, is she not freaking out because one is missing?
Right.
Jesus would.
Right. That
So
lost one.
we don't know what tree it came out of.
He would betray the 99 to find the one.
He would walk away from the 99 and go get that one.
Yeah.
I don't actually think that's true. I don't think that's how shepherds work. I'll ask one of my Georgian friends.
Right.
There's a hat called the papahi, and a papahi is essentially sheepskin, and it smells like it too. It's like a sheepskin, sheep's fur and skin afro that you stick on your head. Why? Because as the shepherd walks around the mountains or pastures, the sheep, he's the tallest sheep, right?
Right.
And they see him or her, and they follow that shepherd, so they know where to go. That's why this hat looks like that. If you've got a few thousand sheep, I don't think you risk lose, because wolves aren't stupid, or whatever animals that are hunters, they're not stupid. If there's a pack of them and they know they can get you chasing after one, that's all they'll ever do. They'll get you looking for that one, and then they'll go kill 6 of them and drag them back to wherever they're going.
Can you read some of the comments? No, just read some of the last comments from AR and Grandpong.
Okay, so I'm okay. Funny the ratio of doctors to chaplains there are. Well said, 0125 AR. The chaplain saved my one black friend. No, I told you. I said, I don't know if you heard it. I have a world-class physician, a leader in her field.
Oh, man.
She put the original one in, and she did the whatever the heck wizardry was up with the second one. She took care of that.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that. See. Funny, the ratio of doctors to chaplains to heart hospitals. The secret is,
by the way, that's an excellent point. And please don't ask the pastor that when he comes on the show. Like,
yeah,
why do we see this disparity in hospitals? Because I'm sure that actually the ratio of doctors in church to ministers is probably higher too. The secret is getting people to pay you a yearly stipend to continue your search for that married bachelor,
which will prove everyone wrong. Yeah, it's a William Lane Craig quote. Okay. There are no married bachelors.
I missed an earlier portion of this conversation. So here's my reply to this. There are no married bachelor things. Unmarried. There are no married bachelors. I'm like, that's not true. Bachelor is the last name.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So
there are no married bachelors.
Nerdy Road. Insert WLC.
Yeah, he was
poking fun. He was saying there are no married bachelors.
Yeah. They were just poking fun. He was just poking fun.
To 0125 AR. Maybe because you haven't been to church recently, to have priests remind you and help you learn those proper instructions. Okay.
Where is
I'm reading these upside down. I should start at the bottom. So are there other specific things, Pocket Locker, you think I should see, or James?
No. It was mostly the couple about the hospital. That's all. They were fun. Yeah.
Well, there were the lady next to me. I don't know if he spoke with her at all. The lady in the room next to me. Really, it's not a room. There's a curtain.
Oh, right. You mean in the room with? Gotcha. Yeah.
So we're in a suite there at the hospital, with all these curtained off sections in it. So, I'm not trying to say that lady's business, but I got an earful of what was going on with her. And unlike when I was in the hospital last month, where they're literally opening the person next to me up, operating on that dude's brain.
Really?
Right next to me until they get an operating room to go into. Holy crap.
When was this?
August 6th.
They were operating
about 9 a.m. in the morning.
Dude's brain, and you're sitting there
operating
listening
on the
to
dude's
it.
Brain, and
you're listening to it. You're not knocked out or anything. Like
I'm not knocked out. I'm fully conscious. I'm partially freaked out from my own experience.
Oh my God! No.
And they're working on that dude's brain.
Nope. Listen, y'all. We got to stop this COVID stuff, man. This ain't supposed to be happening, bro. You ain't supposed to go in for no routine stuff, and then you in the same room, and they doing brain. Guys, this is not how.
Well, me nearly dying isn't a routine thing. Let's hope.
Yeah, but you ain't supposed to be in the same room listening to somebody else get brain surgery.
But look, they're trying to. I just need to clarify. They're saving this guy's life. That person was probably in an accident and rushed to the hospital, and rather than just let him die, they went to work immediately. You do what you can. When they got a room to work on the guy, he was wheeled out of there, on the gurney. This Thursday, when I was in the hospital, I remember when they were taking me to my room. So I had a scheduled surgery. This wasn't anything impromptu.
Oh, it's so dramatic, though. Oh, my goodness. Go ahead.
There was a hallway that had people in it. I mean, patients in beds, up against the wall. They had IVs dripping and so on. And I said to my nurse, what the heck is going on? Is this COVID? And she said, no. For some reason, this year, there are so many people here for various reasons. People are getting sick. And she didn't say it was, COVID was the reason. People are getting sick and injured in huge numbers. So,
well, one of the things I'm seeing is something I almost think of it as hyper socialization. It's actually the thing that frustrated me the most about people relaxing the restrictions. Because people who used to pre-COVID go out once a week, maybe twice, And now all of a sudden they're never home. It's something for them to do every fucking night of the week. And it's like not only are people like, oh, you know, like it would have been one thing to say, okay, we've been locked down for whatever, 2 years, whatever it is. And I don't even want to hear that from most people because most people just haven't done it ever. I'm like, from now on, when you complain about being locked down, you and I get to compare notes on what it means to be locked down. Right? People gonna say that to me. And then it's like, okay, I understand if you felt like, all right, let's have a ladies' night once a month or something. You know, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. You know, let's do something. Hey, Susie, we'll get together at Susie's and have brunch or whatever, right? Nah. They at the movie theater on Monday, the mall on Tuesday, different movie on Wednesday, back at the restaurant on Thursday, bowling alley on Friday. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with you?
It's about living. It's about living. I'm telling you.
I know. Living. I guess so.
Imagine a lot of people really were cooped up for a year or two.
Sure, yeah.
And felt isolated and alone, and they knew that they had friends that they hadn't seen in a while that died of COVID and things like that. And maybe for them, they realized, well, shoot, I guess I better get busy living.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're going to get busy, and we going to all be still dying because it's just not how viruses work. I get it, but look, here's the thing, y'all. Mm-hmm. Here's the worst lie in all of the Bible. Human dominion. Here's the truth, y'all. Dominion on this planet belongs to things we can't even see. It is viruses, bacteria, and micro organisms that run this planet. And right now, you just got to recognize COVID doesn't care. It just doesn't care.
It's the old adage, nature is indifferent.
Totally.
It does not
100%.
It is indifferent.
Totally indifferent.
And that's a thing I think you should be taught before you enter kindergarten.
Yeah, that's really what I'm getting at, is that we failed, right? We failed this society. We have a society of adults that is just woefully not prepared to deal with the fundamental realities of the situation we're dealing in. And I say it all the time. I'm going to say it to people at the university all the time. The university fucked this up too. Sorry. Because it's like, you got to understand, your responsibility to educate people. Here's lesson number 1. Nothing is the same during a pandemic. That's lesson number 1. That's the most important thing you could teach people. That's what the kids right now need to be learning. And instead, you're teaching them, oh, well, you could do it this way and ignore it and manufactured consent. I mean, what we're teaching people is awful. We should be teaching people the fundamental laws of reality. You know, but I'm just trying to agree. We failed to teach people, and this is the results of it, right? Is that people aren't even thinking about it. It's not even in their consciousness anymore.
I'll disagree. I think a lot of people are learning it, and a lot of people won't learn it, right? They're refusing to learn. My neighbor, when he passed away from COVID, his pre-existing condition was 2 bad knees. In 2 weeks, COVID shredded his lungs to jelly, basically.
Damn.
And so he wasn't someone who thought it was BS. He wasn't a conspiracy theorist, right? He didn't think it could be caused by 5G or 4G or whatever.
Right.
That wasn't anything he thought was a thing. His mother had it, and he wanted to take care of his mom.
Oh.
He wanted to look after her. But he wasn't careful enough, or maybe he couldn't have been. I don't know. Maybe he could not have been careful enough. But he's not here anymore. I can't walk over and sit with him and talk with him and have, dinner with him and his family. I can't do that anymore. But there's someone who took it seriously and didn't survive it.
Right.
And last year, the hospitals were full of people like that. 2021, I was.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think it's. I definitely don't think it's
dying of COVID when I was in the hospital in 2021. So
I don't have any sort of hostility or resentment towards people who get it, and even people who get it just living, but the people who haven't taken it seriously, it's all types of anger, and there's frustration as a professional biologist, right? This is an alarming failure of us to just do. You got to remember, my friend, I'm not talking grad school stuff, right? We're talking the basics of biology, right? We always say, why didn't Jesus teach us germ theory, right?
That would have been a good idea.
Love God, love your neighbor, and diseases are caused by bacteria and viruses. Wash your hands, right? Like that would have really taken us a long way, and that's kind of the scary part to me. And then of course we have so many people who are denying evolution when that's what's happening, right? This is a situation where this virus is evolving. And I don't even know if I've said this to you guys recently, but I always say it to my colleagues. Maybe it was before I even started streaming. I always say, listen to the news coverage, guys, and ask yourself this question: how often do they use the E word? Right?
Evolution.
And right? They don't, right? What do they say?
Well, they say the virus is mutating.
Variants, the mutants, right? They use these sort of neutral words because these are the words that religious people, right? They're okay with micro. They're okay with micro, so you can say that. But they strategically, right? Right? Because they could just go out there and say, hey, guys, this virus is evolving, and as it continues to evolve, it continues to remain a threat, right? But they strategically don't use that word. That's my only point, is that's how supercharged this thing is. And as an evolutionary biologist, that's a problem for me, right? And when I bring this up to my colleagues, they go like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, come on, y'all, this is serious. This is how serious this thing is. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and we can't publicly say the word evolve. That's an issue.
Well, I think that has more to do with who's writing the story. So you'll notice there are compilations you can see. I've mentioned this before on YouTube of one news channel with several different news hosts or whatever, show hosts, using similar terminology to talk about an incident or something that's going on in society. And that's because they're just a handful of writers for each of those organizations writing those stories, and they can't know everything, so they know very little, and they give you the hits, right? Yeah. They'll take stuff from interviews, from articles, and they're just like Answers in Genesis. They only ever read the headline, really, or maybe one or two sentences in, and yet they can make a whole show out of it, right? They get 10 of these, and you got 30 minutes of material if you can just, say them, comment, whatever kind of response you have, criticize, and you can make a whole show out of it, and that show makes you money. It's not about giving people the best information. It's just about getting people information so you can make money. That's all. But see, that's what you ought to be taught. And so if you really want to know something, you ought to also be taught, and you as a doctor, double PhD, you have to really look into these things. Yeah. And sometimes it's like the onion, which I happen to have. You just keep peeling away at it, and it's always seems to be there. There's more and more and more and more and more. And that's just the fact, but people don't want to commit the time often to learning a lot unless it affects them. And sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, not even then. Not even then sometimes. Yeah, it's and we're all guilty of that, right? I always say this: none of us lives the perfectly scientific lifestyle, right? Like I'm certainly, guilty of that the same way. Hang on a sec. I'm changing the title real quick. Because I'm going to keep this show isolated. Haven't we reached the point where the scientists are the new priests, where people are simply to accept their results without question? I would say no. However, it's really interesting comment that you've provided here. If you look at religion, I think when you go back far enough to like ancient Egypt, the priests were the scientists. They were the people trying to explain and probably before then, I would suggest too, they're trying to explain how the universe works to the common person.
Right.
And the best way to do that is via a parable.
And I would just say, too, that consensus is the way you tell which scientists to listen to and which ones not to. You got to do consensus, and sometimes you got to get into literature. And this is also why, for the most part, the public should be consuming consensus science rather than, picking and choosing experiments at the margins of science to read, because those things, often you will not have the requisite tools to make heads or tails of it without further guidance. We gotta wrap though. I've got a meeting at 5:30. I want to make sure I've got time to let Sam out. I definitely want to just say thanks to everybody. Appreciate the chat. Appreciate my co-host, of course, my one black friend, and James. And also, I'll be back at 5:30 on Pocket Locker 86 for Church with Sacred Death. And then the late night Counter-Apologetics. We'll do it pretty early. We'll do the Atheist Crew Book Club, chapter 18, I believe, of Christopher Hitchens' God is Not Great. And then we'll hang out and have some fun at the compound, probably just relax and play cards or something so I can get to bed at a decent hour. And then that's it for me. I want to turn it over to James, and then I'll let my one black friend close us out.
So as far as the consensus in science, I'm like, look, this wasn't even an issue for anybody back when there was all these other diseases that we now have vaccines, inoculations for, right? Polio and all these other really serious things. The reason that the whole controversy arose about can we really trust scientists when they're telling us about COVID is because predators on the far right, including amongst the religious far right, decided to politicize and weaponize the pandemic in order to, for their own interest. And we could go into that, but it would probably take 10 minutes to explain it all.
Sure.
But so if somebody's going to say, how do we know that scientists are giving me legit shit when it comes to COVID, and should we just trust them at face value? Notice nobody was fucking talking that shit when polio was a thing. Like, we're like, okay, yeah, germ theory is a real thing.
Yes.
And the disease is awful, and if we get a vaccine, then we've got a really good chance of not catching the disease, or it'll be mild if we do. And let's go freaking take the vaccine. Let's not play these games about, suspicious, paranoid, conspiracy bullshit that's putting all kinds of people's lives at risk just on this wild conspiracy paranoid bullshit about how maybe the whole thing is just a leftist conspiracy to control us with fear. And that's the thing, that on the far right, they were being controlled by the far right media and by the far right politicians. Those were the people controlling the anti-vaxxers with fear, not the scientists. And that's the gimmick that was being run. So the very thing that they were afraid of happening to them is the very thing they were falling for. And in the meantime, all kinds of people suffering and dying completely needlessly because people don't give a shit about other people. Sorry. End of
Tough stuff, man. And go ahead, my own black friend.
Okay. Well, we can say here we care about other people.
Absolutely.
We do.
So we have people in the world who don't. They're after their own self-interest.
Roughly 40% of America, but yeah.
I don't think it's that high.
Pew says it is, but we can have that discussion some other time.
Okay. So for Pocket Locker and all those who want to participate in the upcoming Atheistmas holiday.
Yes. Merry Atheistmas.
Let's go ahead and
Let's get it. Let's call it what it is.
Pocket Locker, you think of a time, like I said, I'll be on East Coast time at that point.
Yeah. Let me think about it.
An hour or two to where it should reach its height. Maybe you want to start before then, but I would say be willing to have Christmas dinner in front of you when this happens. So find out from your mom. Hey, Mom, what time is Christmas dinner going to be? So you can show up late, if that is the plan, and enjoy your family, and then do an hour or two maybe 3. I don't more if you want. You're a streamer.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thinking I might. It's either gonna be that or I might stay here so that I can kind of hold it down while everybody else comes and goes. It just depends. I don't really want to travel. That's the other thing. But I wanted to focus the conversation on sort of the emotional realities of the situation, and so I'll definitely what you guys have helped with. This has been a great episode. I think this is a great conversation, and I'm super excited about Atheistmas. What was that?
I'm pointing at a stocking that's hung on my fireplace.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
It's been there for I think it's been there for like 3 years. I don't think I've taken it down because I'm like, who cares? I put all the other Christmas stuff away, but that thing, I guess there's 2 of them there. There's 2 Christmas stockings. But I think we ought to maybe brainstorm a little bit of the commandments episode next week about what should decorations be for Atheistmas. I'm seeing the suggestion of a tree.
Yeah, I have a tree. I gotta love my little tree.
How do we riff on the tree idea?
Weed. Sorry, it was the first. You should have known that was going to be the first thing that popped into my head. I mean, it's just
pocket locker for you. Does not the Bible say that God made the grass and herb of the field?
Yeah, there you go.
So fine.
For
you, you could have that, and anyone else who's interested.
Yeah,
you all can enjoy herb on your tree.
Seriously. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, be good to yourselves
and each other.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Pre-atheist